What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. So we are back in Classic, and I thought I would show you some progress I've made with Gnomesequencer, just kind of experimenting and slowly building up macros as I level up. Maybe this will help you out as well to try out different things and see what works for you. So yeah, obviously Gnomesequencer does work. We're going to pull up Gnomesequencer now, and I'm also going to pull up my my spell book because that's going to be very important. So we're going to go ahead and make a macro. We're going to go ahead and make a macro from scratch. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this guy here. I deleted the icon. Okay, click on it and then delete it there. Learn to use macros, bro. Okay, so we're going to make a macro. Obviously, I have a template set up for me because I make a lot of macros to export for you guys. So I've got my YouTube channel, all that stuff. So you don't have to do this, but you can just create new macro. But I'm just going to do it this way. And then we're going to call it Hunter. And then you want to go here, and I don't know if specs matter. Obviously, it's got like every spec that's in current retail WoW, but I'm just going to make one that's specifically for Hunter. There it is. Good. Okay, so everything else is fine. We're going to go over to the next page, and of course, I always keep target enemy no harm, and I keep dead. And then, of course, it is a priority list. It's very possible that in Classic, cast random might be a better option. I don't know yet, but I'm going to do the sequence style. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, so here's what we're doing. Let's go ahead and look at our abilities. We are a hunter right now, level 12, and there are certain things that we can do. So one thing that I obviously want to add in is if I don't have my pet summoned, I'm going to want to call pets. So we do cast... no pet, no dead, like that. So that means if the pet is not there and it's not dead, then the macro will use call pet. I believe that's how that works. I will have to experiment and see. But I may be doing the brackets wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how you're supposed to do it. I've been trying to get revive pet to work if the pet is dead, but I don't seem to be able to get that to work. So I'm going to keep working on that and see what I come up with. By the time I make official macros, I should have it figured out. So for now, this is what we've got. We don't want to put aspect of the hawk or aspect of the monkey in the macro. We don't want to put min pet or any of these things in. So let's go over to our other abilities. Now, this is where, let me see if there's anything in survival. There's Raptor Strike. That's melee. So the thing about Raptor Strike is this is probably one that I could put in as soon as I can figure out how to keep Raptor Strike from getting me to stop shooting my gun. Because that tends to be what happens. If I use Raptor Strike, then Auto Shot turns off, which is really annoying. If I just use like Arcane Shot, then I automatically turn on Auto Shot. So it may come down to having to create a ranged macro for hunters and a melee macro for hunters if hunters even have enough abilities to justify that. So we will see, and I will keep experimenting. But let's go ahead and look at our shots. So we have Arcane Shot, which has a 6-second cooldown. So we're just going to add Arcane Shot right out of the gate. Okay, so that's easy enough. What else do we have? Auto Shot, I don't think I even need to put that in the macro. I don't know how it would even work in the macro, so for now I'm going to leave that off. Oh, but that does remind me that we do want to put /pet attack in here, so that way we actually send our pet to attack our target. Okay, so what else do we have? Concussive Shot. Now, this is actually pretty useful when you're leveling because it will slow down the speed of your target. Believe it or not, in Classic, you actually did have to use abilities that weren't damage abilities only, and they actually served a purpose because you needed to stay alive. So Concussive Shot would be useful to add in the macro, but here's the thing. We also have Serpent Sting. Now this uses mana. We don't want to just waste our mana. It doesn't have a cooldown, and it's only something that you want to use to put the dot on your target, the sting. Okay, so there's something we can do here. Serpent Sting has a 15-second dot, and Concussive Shot has a 12-second cooldown. So we could do a couple of things. We could do like a cast sequence and do 2 arcane shots after Serpent Sting or before Serpent Sting, or we could just put Serpent Sting with Concussive Shot, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So what we'll do is I'm going to put this before Arcane Shot. We do cast, sequence, and then we say reset equals... Actually, you know what? We don't even need to do that. That wouldn't be necessary. We're going to do Concussive Shot. Sorry, I'm eating my microphone. And then Serpent Sting. Now, the reason why I'm putting Concussive Shot first is because it'll use Concussive Shot, and then it'll use Serpent Sting, and then it will wait for Concussive Shot to come off cooldown. If I put Serpent Sting first, then it'll use Serpent Sting, Concussive Shot, and then it'll immediately go back to using Serpent Sting again. So we don't want that. We only want it to use Serpent Sting once each time it uses Concussive Shot. So this is how you get around that. You put the one with the cooldown first, ideally. Okay, so that basically is how that's going to work. Now, something else I just thought of. Obviously, you have spell ranks, right? You have Arcane Shot rank 2 and Arcane Shot rank 1. From what I understand as of right now, if you create a macro with the spell name in it, then it will always use the highest rank of that spell, unless you specify otherwise. So if I put Arcane Shot and then I put a parentheses after it and said rank 1 in parentheses, then if I did this, it would use rank 1's Arcane Shot. So this is actually very useful because, you know, if you're not using Gnomesequencer, if you're just making, like, you're just playing the game regularly, an option to not have to worry about, you know, upgrading, you know, you buy the ranks at the shop or at the trainer. You don't have to put the new ranks in. If you want to avoid that, you can just create macros for all of your ranked spells and then just use those macros, and then you'll never have to worry about ranks ever again. So that's an option. It's, you know, it's a bit tedious to make all those macros, I suppose, but it is something that you can consider doing if you don't want to have to worry about spell ranks, and then you'll just use the latest rank that you know. So that's an option, and that's great for Gnomesequencer because, you know, you don't have to update it or anything. It's just going to use whatever rank you have. Okay, so there's one more ability that we do need to look at, and that is Hunter's Mark. Now, again, this is something that you could keep casting on the target over and over and over again. And it uses mana. We don't want that. We don't want to waste the globals. We don't want to waste the mana. You just want to put it on the target once and then forget about it. So, the way that we can do that is, well, we have this inner loop thing going on, and we can put it under pre-macro. So we type cast Hunter's Mark. Okay. Yeah, Hunter's Mark. Okay, so make sure that I got all my spelling right. Yep, everything's colored. That's good. So when you put it in pre-macro and you don't set an inner loop, then what will happen is before it does anything, the macro will use Hunter's Mark, and then it will go into your sequence and it will never go back to Hunter's Mark again. So that way you only use the ability once and then you don't have to worry about it. If I put an inner loop of like 1 in here, then after it cycles through the main sequence line one time, then it would go back to using pre-macro one and then go back to the sequence again. So that's, if it's something that you want to use periodically, then you might put an inner loop in. If it's something that you only want to use once, like Hunter's Mark, then you don't put a inner loop in at all. As a matter of fact, the inner loop feature, even in retail, I always thought about old school Hunter's Mark whenever I thought of this feature, because I was always like, it would work great for Hunter's Mark. Now, there is one minor problem that I haven't figured out how to get around yet. These macros reset in combat by default. So if you're in combat, say you fight one target and then you switch to another, I don't know if it will cast Hunter's Mark again, which is a little bit of a problem because, you know, you want to recast it when you switch to a different target. So I haven't figured out how to make that work every time. I'm going to keep experimenting with it. It may require something completely different. But anyways, this is what I've got so far. And then, of course, I don't have any other abilities to add. I did try before putting in my racial Blood Fury down here, and it doesn't seem to work for some reason. I know that it's on the global cooldown, so I imagine if I put it in here in the main sequence line, it would work, but then I'm clogging up the macro with an ability that only one of my hunters will actually use. So I don't know if that's something I want to do, so I'm thinking about why that might not be working and what I can do to make it work. So it may just be that Gnomesequencer needs some updates. It could mean that macros from Classic are limited, but as far as I know, a lot of the API for add-ons and macros is actually a lot more like retail than it was like Classic. There's a lot of new stuff in there. That's why we have Action Cam. So I'm not 100% sure, but anyways, guys, there you go. This is how I work on making a macro. Hopefully you can apply this knowledge and these, just this, way of thinking to your other classes. If you're playing another class and you have similar situations like this, it could be a lot more straightforward, or it could be a lot more difficult. But anyway, this is what I've made. This is what I'm working with. Let's go ahead and test it out. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to dismiss our pet, because we want to see if that call pet feature works. So goodbye, Bob. I'll see you in just a minute. So now he's gone. If I click the macro, there he is. So the macro works by summoning him back onto the screen. So obviously, as you saw me put the macro down here, it's on spell slot 1, and I just like to keep it hidden because it looks nicer. So, alright, so now we're going to just spam away at the macro and see what happens. Alright, gotta have to back up though, because this is Classic and you can't shoot when you're close up. So, hit it, we start shooting. There you go. Look at that. I'm going to go ahead, you can't shoot while you're close up. It did not put Hunter's Mark on the target though, so let's see why that might not be. Now, again, I'm doing this as a sort of a live test so you guys can kind of get the full experience and peek behind the curtain to what it's like when you're making macros. You got to test them. Okay, so there's another one here. It could be that I was moving. I don't know. We'll find out. So let's see. We got this guy here. Yeah, so it's not using Hunter's Mark now. I will have to see why that might be. It's using Concussive Shot. It's using Serpent Sting, so we know that part's working. But let's go back into GSE and see what's up, okay? So one thing that I could probably do is I want to put an inner loop of 1, and I want to see if this works. So we're going to do cast sequence, and then we'll say reset equals target, and then we're going to say Hunter's Mark, and then we're going to say null. Okay, so what that'll do is it will stop the sequence once it gets to null. So it'll use Hunter's Mark, and then it will stop. And then when I switch to a different target, perhaps it will go back and use Hunter's Mark again. So let's find out if at least this works. So that is blue, so that should be working. Yeah, and I'm also going to make sure that I'm not accidentally spamming in chat, just in case. Which I guess if I was, it would be showing it above my head. So, okay, so we got this target here. Let's go ahead and see. There we go. So now you can see Hunter's Mark is working. And I will know if I cast it again because I put my hand above my head. So look at that. So now we've got Hunter's Mark actually working. There's an example of how, switching things up, just experimenting and trying a few things out works. You can always read about macro commands on Wowhead and other places to learn basic macro functions. And yeah, look, now it's working every time. So that's all I had to do. That was a simple fix. I haven't tested it to see if it will cast on a second mob if I'm staying in combat, but that's what we're going to level up and keep testing things out. We keep improving macros, and we keep learning, and we keep seeing what we can do. So, check out WoW Lazy Macros. I'm sure they're going to get involved in Classic, and, learn to experiment, practice, see what you can do. Because it's going to, it's going to be a little bit before I'm able to get macros out for videos. I would love to do that, and I'm planning to do that, but it's going to take a very, very long time to level up just one character in Classic, let alone multiple characters, and then getting their rotations down enough to make macros. But I'm definitely going to get there. It just might take some time. So in the meantime, hopefully this will help you guys out. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and if you'd like, you can support this channel on Patreon. Links to all of this can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.